Welcome to the Make Our Music podcast with your hosts, myself, Mark Roberge, Jim Foster, Shaun Lichtenstein, and Johnny Roberge. Today we have, we have our great friend on here, Ken from Nullset, which is also Jim's band. So Jim's going to be doubling today as the guest as well. So we got Jim Foster, we got Ken here from Nullset. This is going to be a really great podcast to kind of go over their whole career in the music industry and how their band started and, where it came and where it is now. And so Ken, welcome to the show today.
Thanks, guys.
Hey.
Yeah. So, obviously we've known you for a while and we've all played shows with you guys. And obviously Jim's a business partner of ours. So we know a lot of the Nullset story, but I'm sure there is pieces that we don't know about. And so this is going to be kind of fun to kind of hear your perspective of it all. And I guess like the first thing to start off here is like, just tell us about yourself and how you even started in the music industry. What really got you into becoming the singer that you are.
Well, it's a long story, but we'll try to condense it. So originally I just started goofing around on drums with my roommate, Brendan, and we just were doing covers and just kind of goofing around and wrote a couple of originals, decided just like, all right, let's just pick a name and start, trying to write some songs and find other players. So that band lasted, maybe 2-3 years of, while we were busy anyway. And then...
How old were you?
At that time, probably 22, I want to say.
Okay.
And then that band started doing pretty well. But I wasn't really, holding up my end of the deal with drums because I was just like a kind of a glorified hack. And so they kind of gave me the boot, and that, Jim was in the band at that time, and I was still interested in performing, and I still liked, playing live and writing. So I quickly, kind of found another band down the hall from a rehearsal space, and they were looking for a vocalist, and I was like, yeah, I'll do that, So I took their demo home and just wrote some lyrics and went down a couple of days later and, did a couple songs and everybody liked it. So I was like, all right, let's just do this. So, started singing in that band and, that band started doing well. And then long story short, Jim ended up leaving the band that I was in, which was Controlled Aggression. And he came to replace the guitar player, and then everything just kind of snowballed from there. But that happened fairly quickly. I mean, it was probably over a 2-year period, that things went from, like totally just a, weekend warrior type of, play like one gig every other month to like playing like 7-8 shows a month. So it happened pretty quick.
Now, if we went back even a little further, like what is the thing that actually got you to even pursue music in general? Like what was where did that happen? When did that happen in your life?
Well, I took drum lessons, in elementary school, just like on the pad and stuff. When I moved out, we had this big basement, and, my roommate had a guitar and an amp, and I was like, I should go get a drum set, So I just bought a piece of shit drum set and just started sucking my way through it. After you do it enough, you're like, okay, I can at least play a couple songs. So it gets pretty, it gets more rewarding. And then when you write, your first couple original songs, right, you're like, I can fucking do this better than anybody. You think you're like Led Zeppelin,
That's so
Dude,
funny.
it's just fun. It's just fun to, it's fun to make art,
Did you find that was like a common theme? Like you had to, for the rest of your career, you had to suck your way through it?
Yeah. I mean, everybody sucks at some point or forever, right? You don't know you suck unless you suck at first. That's part of it.
Let me interject here.
Until you make eye contact.
Yeah, exactly. Ken's being a little quick with it, but the reality was the band that Ken had started with his friend that was a real party band, a heavy metal party band. Like it was all based around parties and fun. So the idea of like practicing, that wasn't real, It was more like we're going down, we're going to have a keg, a bottle, a whole bunch of weed, and we're going to, make crazy loud noise until, 2 a.m, and then we're going to get out of here. That's really what it was. Ken was a bit of a hack, but he was also really original in the way he played drums. And, over time as the band, we got a manager basically, and that manager convinced us that things weren't good, as managers typically do. And once that sets in, there's no going back. Like once someone focuses on the weak link in the band or whatever, everybody starts to like get into that, and it starts to be irritating and grow into something. It was completely unnecessary. But the reality was, Ken was like one of the backup singers, and every time he got on the mic behind the kit when he was playing, his voice would just devastate the room, blow up the PA. It was so loud and big, and everybody knew, oh, when Ken like does a backup or whatever, is rad. So when Ken finally got kicked out of our band, the other band down the hall, which was basically Gangsta Bitch Barbie, they needed a singer, and almost everybody was like, Ken's got to do this. Like, he's a singer, because he was also funny. He was also like wild. Like, Ken would fall off the drums during a show, like just wild, weird shit. But he had something. So when he went down the hallway, and this is my perspective, the first time I saw them jam, and it was only after like a week or whatever, it was awesome. It was like truly like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, the room was just, it was good. So that's a little more the story. He's being a bit humble and quick with it, but that's kind of how I saw it. And from there, I didn't really want to leave the band that we were in previously, but I'm telling you, after watching a couple of shows, like I filmed a show, they did Skate 98 at the Palladium, and I filmed that for them. And I was just like,
the magic was there.
Oh,
yeah.
They got it. They got the thing. They had the thing, and that just started fucking with my head, So that's my perspective on it.
Yeah, and just to be clear for the audience, anybody that's watching, Gangsta Bitch Barbie is Nullset. That they evolved into that. So Jim, I guess then let's start with you now. Kind of tell your story about how you even started. Why you even got into music. Like what kicked it off for you?
Well, my family had a family band. Everybody in my father's side of the family plays music. Everybody. So when I was like a toddler, literally a toddler, like a little kid, my family band would play at my house, and I would literally sit inside the bass drum while my uncle was playing drums and my dad was playing guitar and singing. And I just I know no other thing, it's just from birth. So I always wanted to play drums. I remember being like 4 years old and going into the basement and setting up my uncle's drum kit, like not understanding a damn thing. I just knew I needed to play it. So I always wanted to play drums. And I also did the pad thing in school, and I was like, this is bullshit. Right. I want to play like a big drum set and all this. So I couldn't deal. And then eventually, I got a guitar. I was just obsessed, and that's it. That's really it. And ironically, the guitar player who was in the band that Ken and I were just talking about, he was like one of my childhood friends, and he's basically the one that kind of taught me the guitar when we were in high school. So when we were out of high school, this guy, Bob, who was the guitar player in Ken's band at the time, he made me join the band. Like, I was like, no, dude, no, get out of here with it. He's like, no, you're doing it. Like, he made me do it. So that's kind of how it all started, our connection. I didn't know Ken because he was from Framingham. I was from Natick, next town over. I just didn't know him or Brendan, but I really was into, like, their band was a legit party band. Like, there'd be weirdos hanging out in a party every night, and the shows turned into crazy parties. It was just party. And that I was into that. So that's kind of how it kicked off.
Right.
Very cool.
Motley Crue.
Very cool. So then when you guys...
Yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's kind of,
I mean, part of playing music was to meet girls too. I mean, that's,
totally.
That was one of the original draws. It was like, oh my God, this can,
I'm in a band.
Step up the game here,
Yeah.
Yeah, for real.
It's awesome. And now you guys are in a band. So, tell us some of the biggest challenges you guys faced early on. Is there any moment that actually you guys like doubted, like, oh my God, can we continue to do this?
Well, let me just say, and Ken can finish this up, but Ken was pretty much our manager. He had a business sense where nobody else did. So he kind of led the charge in a lot of the things we did. And, you can answer the rest of that. I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah. I mean, Brendan, he helped a lot too. I mean, we kind of co-managed it, but yeah, I did probably a little bit more of the booking and, trying to, navigate like where we're going to play, who we're going to play with, how much we're going to get paid, when are we going to record, that type of thing. But Brendan really, helped out as well. But yeah, I was, I was running my business at that time. So I looked at it as like, we're going to get out what we put in, and somebody needs to kind of like take the wheel here. Cause it's not going to drive itself. But Brendan obviously helped a ton as well. And he's, very charismatic and outgoing. So between the two of us, we had a lot of people, a lot of energy helping to promote. Like we would, put flyers everywhere, make posters, make sure that the band didn't get stale. Try to kick out the weak songs and write new ones. That's why when we got a manager, I was like, it was good and bad, because I was like, being control freak, I was like, I don't know if I want that, but I want the help. And then instantly I was like, wait a minute, you can't kick me out of my own band. And then there it is.
Yeah, I wouldn't say there were a lot of challenges in that band, honestly.
No, things were rolling downhill. I mean, it seemed like the more we did, like the more, popular we got, and the more songwriting, like kind of just, it wasn't hard. It didn't feel hard. It didn't feel like work to write songs. It was like, hey, let's write a song. And it was like, all right, we fucking wrote another song today, So
this is interesting, and I'll be brief with it, but when Ken got kicked out of that band, ironically, this is very weird. This dude moved from California to Boston to be an accountant, and he showed up with his unborn child's baby drum kit. I'm not joking. It was like one of those little drum kits that little kids have.
Toys R Us drum set.
But this guy was a fucking animal, and he set that drum kit up because it was the only kit he had, and he literally destroyed it in trying out for the band. And that dude that was Mick Palmasato, and he ended up being in the next band with Ken and I. So this other band, Controlled Aggression, was like a breeding ground for all of this.
Yeah, very inception.
Yeah,
that's awesome. And so then, when did things start to like really kick in for you guys? Like, when did things start moving to the point where eventually you guys had a song at radio? Because I remember as a kid, I remember Smokewood on the radio. I remember listening to that. Then I remember seeing the CD at Derek's house because his mom bought it, and she said she got it at like a WAAF, like some type of like event or something. I don't remember, but I remember it being there, and then that was a song like on radio. And so like, when did things start to kind of like move for you guys?
Let me kick this off, Ken, because this is important. Prior to me being in the band, in fact, Ken managed to get the band a gig opening for Cinderella, and Ken rented a bus and put all of the alcoholic fans and friends on this bus, and the bus showed up at the gig.
It was a battle of bands.
Oh, it was a battle of bands with Waltham. Cinderella was later. So we went in there, and it was just like this crazy party. All of our fans were wild, and they ended up winning. And Ken took that money and used it for a demo that I actually produced, and that kind of kicked it off too.
Yeah, and that did well. I mean, I was surprised how well that did, that demo. People like loved it.
And then so from there, things kind of like, what was the next, I guess like earmark towards the success?
Getting good crowds, like people would come and bring people, and then as the crowds grew, we just had opportunities to open for like really good bands in really good rooms, and then like that can generate a lot of buzz quick, which it did. And we before we knew it, we had like a manager. He was our contact point now for people to find us. So before it would be me, trying to run my business, taking phone calls, we're making phone calls. But when we got a manager, then it was like we had like a contact point that was kind of more dedicated. And the scene in the Boston area at that time was really robust. It was like happening. It was like right in the, the Godsmack, Stain, Revolution, like everything was happening quickly. And as a result of we were just kind of like lumped in with them, I think, to some degree, just because we were just like out there, like playing, doing it. And we didn't really take a lot of time off, putting out material, playing, promoting. And we started getting contacted by labels like, hey, you're the next Boston band that, were interested in. And I think once you get like one or two like labels, like I don't know how that all works, but it seems like once you get one or two, then it's like a small circle. Then it's like, oh, we gotta check them out too. You know, if so-and-so's looking at them, we should be looking at them too.
The
So when that
bidding war
happens,
begins.
yeah, it's kind of like it kind of like feeds on itself. So, you know, we had a few that were really interesting, proposals. And then the first one we got that was like, wow, this looks like a good package for us, was Gary Gersh, and John Silva, which was
came to
Gas Entertainment.
CBGB's.
And then that became Grand Royal. So they kind of morphed into Grand Royal. And it was just really, we had a good amount of, the split was really good and the creative ability was good. So it was like it was like we co-owned the masters. We split everything. So it was like, to us, it was like a super attractive deal. It was a fair deal for an artist. I thought it was. So we just said
it was the beginning of the 360. That's really what it was.
Yeah.
That was.
But I mean, the deal we had, it worked, was I think an artist friendly deal.
Now, how, what was the process like getting the song on the radio? Where did that? When did that happen?
Well, first of all, we made some giant mistakes. Once we got the money from Grand Royal, they sent us to LA for a couple weeks to make a record with Chris Vrenna, who was the drummer from Nine Inch Nails, who was also like, kind of like a Pro Tools beta dude. He was a great engineer. He was okay at producing, good guy. But we went out there and we did, what ultimately was a demo. And for real, it was such garbage that it was scary. The label said no. Even the band was like, no.
Yeah, it was flat sounding.
It was so when we got back, it was like, we had talked with Howard Benson prior, and then we kind of had to grovel and be like, hey, Howard, we made a mistake. Would you mind, fixing this? So he said, yeah, we went out for, whatever it was, Ken, like maybe just under 2 months or whatever. We made a record with Howard, and Howard was hell-bent on helping his artists as well. So he was like kind of involved in making sure things happened, even though there was some serious resistance. But when that album came out,
it wasn't really how it was like in the can.
Yeah.
And then the label was dragging their feet like crazy.
This is a great story. One of my favorite stories about our band. The label was dragging their feet, almost to the point where they were like, we're not going to put this out. And I remember me and Ken flew into LAX. Our A&R guy picked us up, and we're driving to the hotel, and Ken's like, what's going on with this record? I have the rough mixes. I have the masters. I'm going to put it out. And our A&R guy was like, you're going to what? He's like, yeah, I'm going to put this out. Our fans want it already. Like, he's telling the label that we have our own copy and we don't care about you anymore. We're going to put it out no matter what. And this dude,
he was
literally,
his head like
he quit.
Literally spun off his feet. Like,
he went mental, and he quit. He quit our band right then and there. The bottom line is the record ended up coming out, and because we had such a great relationship, even years prior, with WAAF in Boston,
we'd always
the radio
done
station.
like in studios with them. If they called, we would be like, yeah, well, So we'd done shows where they would promote. So we became friends with them, and vice versa, like literally like friends. So, they said, yeah, we'll play it. I was like, go ahead, play it.
Yeah, and
then people called. They're like, what's this? And they liked it. So I was like, so then they just put it in rotation.
Carrie was a big supporter, but really, John Osterwin loved us. And John Osterwin would play the song during the day and literally say shit like, I don't know why anybody listens to Godsmack. These guys are so much better. He would talk that kind of shit on the radio, and it was kind of like, okay, cool. Like, but I'd be at a job with our drummer painting houses, listening to the radio, hearing our tune on the radio, and like literally couldn't buy lunch. So,
and what happened, she was such an influential program director at that time, because they had like a really strong market. Again, small world. It started getting picked up by some other large stations across the U.S. So that was a huge help. John Osterlin and Carrie, like, I mean, they really started that whole thing for us.
Mm-hmm. And they did that for a lot of
bands. You guys had some real support, hometown support from the radio, and then obviously you guys are putting crowds in your backyard, which was obviously influencing all these additional opportunities.
You can't undervalue that. Like, already having played like in the area and getting out there and and doing it, like with your product, getting it out there and getting fans, and then it's on the radio. Then it's like that situation where it's like, oh, you got to hear this band because like you want to be the one to show somebody. So having the grassroots thing and being out there and doing it for a little while, I think helped it a lot because, people want to be that, when you hear a band for the first time and, you want to be the one to be like, I told you these guys are awesome,
Yeah.
So, we were everywhere too. Every show that came to town that would play in Boston or Worcester, like big shows, any band that came to town, our job, like this was like a little point of contention because after a while, no one wanted to do it. But our job was to go to Kinko's, make 10,000 flyers, put them in the backpack and go hand every one of those out at every show. And we did. People were like, Jesus Christ, with these guys already.
Guerrilla marketed like that. And it worked. It actually worked.
That's
we
badass.
Littered everywhere with just flyers, thousands and thousands of them.
Yeah, that's a great tactic. I mean, now there's different ways to do it, right? You can still kind of do it. Obviously, you can utilize the QR code and like a big banner or something, or or hand out flyers with the QR code, or there's all types of different ways to do it, but it's still effective, right? It's still like those people are there to go see a rock show, so the likelihood of them liking your rock music, or if you're an artist, in a pop artist, or if you're a hip hop artist, and you go, that demographic is there for listening to us. What you want, right? And those are they're spending money, right? So those are like real fans, showing up.
We would go to like concerts too, if it was like Korn or whatever. Like we would go to the shows that were like our band,
Barrel.
All right, so now moving forward, right now, so what's the big obstacle that now hit you guys? Because I know that there were some issues and shakeups with the label. 9/11 happened. Like, kind of talk about that element of really where things started, kind of, obviously getting volatile.
The label wasn't really. I don't think they were making a lot of money. I think they were spending money, and I think they were making some money. So they had like at the drive-in, Brand Van. Who else did they have? Julian Lennon, I think. Buffalo Tom.
Shaun Lennon.
Shaun Lennon.
Yeah.
I know I'm forgetting one or two.
Basically, the Beastie Boys were putting their own hard-earned money into their label.
Luscious Jackson.
Yeah.
And if I were to guess, they were like losing a little bit of money. And I think they just got to the point where they're like, look, what do we, we're not really making much money. New metal is already, feels like it's already kind of like crescendoed, and there was a lot of new metal coming out. And I just don't think that they really loved, not enough people at the label loved our band. And so we don't know if it would have come out or it wouldn't have. It probably would not have, just based on the fact that the label wasn't really heading in a direction that it seemed like they were content with it not sustaining. That's what it felt like. And then, when 9/11 happened, they were like, I want to say a block from Ground Zero was their headquarters, and they were just like, all right, let's just blow this up. We'll let the bands kind of walk. They didn't make it difficult for us to continue. They said, if you guys can find something, we'll let you go for 50 cents on the dollar or whatever. They didn't want to hold us back, but they were also like, the gig's up. So, at that time, the market was changing, planes flying into buildings. I think labels were like, oh shit, we need more John Mayer, less Korn, and that was kind of the vibe we got back from some labels that we had stayed in touch with to some degree. And they were like, look, great. You guys are great. You've got a lot of things going for you. You've got a good underground base. You've got a great local base. You've got, fully packaged product, CD, logo, website, street team, stickers, buzz, yada, yada. Right. But they just said, we're just not, we have enough new metal bands on our roster, and half of those guys aren't selling. Even if we love you, and, it's just not a great time to push angry white dude metal.
And we did have some other labels, like especially hip hop labels, strangely enough, like want to pick us up. But this is literally the point where Ken always, since day one, says this to the band: if it's not fun anymore, I'm leaving. He's always said it, so it's hard to hate on him for it, but it wasn't being fun anymore, and Ken left.
It was frustrating. Going through that whole process,
it was frustrating.
To have that happen was like, it was just kind of like, I don't really want to go another 3 years of going through this process when there's no, guarantee like this could happen again. I mean, you hear about stories like it all the time, right? You know, bands get dragged through all kinds of stuff, and it takes forever. And and at the time, my business was kind of like on the rocks, because I had kind of pushed it to the side for a while. And I just, my perspective changed too with 9/11. I mean, it was a different time. It was like you start looking around, going like, "Holy shit! Like, how much longer are we going to be here? Like, what's going on?"
Yeah, this was the course of a couple of years.
Huh?
Yeah, this was like a couple of years in the making. If our record was put out when it was supposed to be put out, we would have been right in the mix with all the other, banging bands at the time. But since there was so much feet dragging, a couple of mistakes made with producers and all this kind of shit, we were 2 years out.
Yeah,
we could have been.
It was done like a year and a half before 9/11. I mean, or at least a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Isn't it amazing how timing is such a massive piece to all of this? Timing is it's everything in regards to the music industry, in regards to, obviously, executing and getting things out, but then the timing of the market and the wave that might be happening in regards to that genre.
Yeah.
There's a lot to it. We've all been,
or one
victims of it
single
at some
versus the
level.
other single. I mean, you see some bands that blow up and their single sounds nothing like any of their other songs.
Yeah.
As far as timing, though, my perspective is this. Maybe it wasn't meant to be, because, working with Howard Benson, he saw some kind of like, spark in me, and he took a chance and gave me some work to do. And I worked on POD Satellite record, and my payment for that record, Howard gave me a Pro Tools system. And that Pro Tools system, I took it and I started a studio, and that studio eventually became what is Red 13 Studios in some ways. So, throughout all of this, what could be considered heartache, it was a pain in the ass and a lot of work, but it just led me and us to the next level, honestly. And so that's kind of how I look at it.
It's the only reason
exactly.
I know you.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's
well,
funny how
and being out there hustling and being in your own band, like that's part of it, right? You wouldn't kind of come to know each other without music,
without that
putting that effort,
that common grind, so it's funny how that all it's crazy how it all works. Like when you look back and you see the perspective of it all, and you're like, okay, this is that might have been a heartache, and it might have been, but it led me here, right? So like so I guess that's what's great now too. So let's talk about now with Nullset, right? So you guys recently got your masters back, which is amazing, right? So that's like a tough thing to have done, but you guys were able to get that done, and that's amazing that Grand Royal was willing to do that for you guys. So now we have the records, and I know that there's been conversations about really like starting to at least like push it back out into the world, and have utilize our system in place now that we built it, and have to utilize that machine now to kind of really start getting it out there and hitting existing fan base, but also hitting new fan base, because there is a resurgence of this sound, which is pretty amazing.
It
right?
Really is.
There's a couple bands out there that sound exactly. One of them sounds exactly like you, Ken. It's almost like
I didn't even tell Ken this.
It's wild, and they're like they're killing it right now. They're like they're going viral all over TikTok.
What are they called?
Silly Goose.
I heard Silly Goose.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, Johnny said to me, "You see this band, Silly Goose? They're ripping you guys off."
And then Jim heard it. He's like, "Holy shit!"
Do.
It's crazy because the lead singer, I met him on the boat. We just played. Lansdowne played Shiprock, so we all went up, and I met the lead singer on the boat, and he was like kind of like this, like he was cool, like, but he was like this like little wise ass. And it was like, yo, that's fucking Ken, right? It reminded me of you. Like, it was pretty hilarious.
His voice sounds just like yours.
It was
I gotta
awesome.
check him out. That's awesome.
Yeah. They crushed it. They played out on the beach, on one of the islands we were at. I forget where we were. But it was like it was a cool show. Like, they put on a good show, and he's like, just fucking like just being a menace. It was awesome. It was like perfect. Like, that's what I would say they are. They're like a menace, right? So they got known for like pulling up to like big festival shows on a flatbed and just playing like rogue like shows, like guerrilla shows outside of, and crowds would form and cops would show up and have to break it up because it became like a hazard. Like, that's what
Great
they got
idea.
kind of like known for on TikTok. Which
Great
is cool.
idea.
It is.
Yeah. So it's cool.
What's
but
the downside? There's none.
There's not, yeah. And so, they're crushing it. There's a lot of other bands. The new metal sounds back. Deftones right now are like, they're basically selling out arenas now. It's like crazy. Like the resurgence is perfect. And so to get the existing catalog that you guys have out there now to that, this fan base that's consuming the shit out of it I think it's a good move. And something I'm looking forward to actually like implementing and getting out there.
Cool. Yeah. We are too. I mean, it's there, for people to hear.
Sure.
So that's why you make it.
Yeah, our stuff was offline for quite a while, and then Ken and I were just like, you know what? Let's just buy this catalog back. And it took a while to get through those talks, but eventually
they were
sold it to us.
doing absolutely nothing at all.
How many songs are currently? How many albums worth? Because I know there's other albums too that probably exist that aren't out, right? So what's the total body of work that's actually released right now?
Well, 4 technically. There's that initial demo that I did with the band, which is called "This Is Not a Test." It's pretty good, even though it sounds kind of shitty. It's one of those like shitty sounding awesome first records.
Yeah.
And then
there's 8 songs on that, but 3 of them we redid.
Yeah,
the self-titled
or the Nullset record. Yeah, there's a Nullset record. We did a great album really fast, and we kind of half put it out, not really, called "I Call Zeus," and I think it's awesome, but nobody really knows that, and I really want to put that one back out.
It's not really like standard new metal. It's a little more straight, more straight rock,
kind of like stoner rock kind of shit, and with a little metal.
But it's still the same band. You can hear the similarities, but it is a different
same
style.
Dudes. Yeah.
Yeah, that was when you were working on like the White stuff too, right? So it's kind of got some of that blues rock influence.
Well, that White record was going to be the second Nullset record. The
Gotcha.
Set Myself on Fire White record was the Nullset songs, essentially. That when Ken left, it was like, what are we going to... Me and Mick were like, shit, we're not done. So, I ended up singing, but, that's kind of a Nullset record too. Those songs were mostly written by us, yeah.
And then I Call Zeus is 11 songs. And then there's the B-sides, which were...
all of our demos.
Yeah, demos. And there's a couple songs that we were going to record for the self-titled, but they just didn't quite make the cut. But
now if you could give yourself, one piece of advice to yourselves, right? So so you go back in time and kind of do things differently. Is there anything that you guys would do? Like Ken, I guess start with you. Is there anything like looking back?
Well, I mean, it's always easy to look back in hindsight. I mean, I guess we should have tried to get with a label that was a little more organized and had processes in place than a smaller label with a really artist-friendly deal. Because, 50% of something really small is not nearly as great as 15% of something big.
Yeah.
So
sure.
I think we were a little too hell-bent on, we want a friendly, a favorable deal, as opposed to we want to be with the right organization. I think I quit a little too abruptly. I probably should have just taken a couple of months to really think about it and take some time off, because I did miss performing. So I probably was a little too quick to do that. But it is what it is. And I did take some time in that process, but I probably should have taken a little more, because I did miss, performing. I mean, that's the most fun. And right. I mean, the most fun part about being in a band is writing and playing live. For me anyway, I mean, there's nothing like being on stage and having a room really engaged and like what you do and get that feedback. I mean, it's rewarding.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it is.
Drug.
It's
a drug.
It is.
So Jim, on that note as well, same question to you. Is there something that you would, go back and do differently?
Probably everything. I was, I was a pretty terrible person back then, and I was literally under the impression that I deserved everything. I deserved to be a rock star. It was really, my mental state was stupid. So I would go back with more of a clear head, I think now, a bit more business. I had no goals back then. I just was waiting for the next amazing thing to happen for me. So I would set some pretty lofty goals and do things every day to get to that. I'm a completely different person now, so almost everything I would do would be completely different. Aside from the music, I mean, the music wasn't bad for what we were doing. I don't really care for it now, but it's not bad. It was good at the time for what it was. So Yeah, that's basically it for me. I do everything different.
Now,
Try to get
Ken,
a real manager.
That would be helpful.
I mean,
well, that could parlay, kind of into the next, like the final question here is like, if you could give one piece to an independent artist that's out there right now, what would it be, Ken?
write better songs all the time. Like, just don't be satisfied with your product. When you're writing good stuff, just keep going. Like, don't rest on your laurels. Like, songwriting is like super important. You could be the greatest promoter in the world and have the greatest producer in the world and the best band name and the best logo and be great live. But if your songs aren't really good, it's never really going to go anywhere. Like, you have to write really good songs, be good at it. And when it's not happening, you either take a break, pull the plug, find other people, get something to be inspired about. But when you are writing, write, keep going, because I mean, that's the key, I think, is having great songs. And obviously, yeah, you need to be able to play them well live and record them and promote and do all those things. But I mean, songwriting is number one and 1A and 1B. I mean, you have to have the shit, right?
It's true. It's true. You got to have that product that's competitive out there. That people hear and they go, whoa, what is that?
Right.
I would only add one thing to that, and that would be do shit from your heart.
Yeah.
Never mind trends. Never mind all that crap. That's going to get you nowhere. I don't care what anyone says. Even if it does get you somewhere, it's temporary. So everything from the heart, because whatever you're thinking and feeling, that's original. There's not another you anywhere in the universe, as far as I know. Maybe there is, but so whatever comes out of you is original. So never mind what everybody else is doing. That's just garbage. That's all I'd add to that. I think Ken's right.
Nice. Well, it's been a pleasure, speaking with you guys and going over the Nullset journey, Gangsta Bitch Barbie journey. Ken Smith, Jim Foster here. It's been a real pleasure here having you guys on. Jim, it's a pleasure to have you on as the guest today. It's cool.
My pleasure.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Make sure you guys go check out the records, right? They're available on Spotify, Apple Music, Pandora. They're everywhere. YouTube. So make sure you go check it out. Go follow the band on Instagram, on Facebook. They're all there. So, and like we said, we're gonna start putting a focus on getting the records out there pushed. So you might start seeing some ads out there on Facebook, on Instagram too. So keep an eye out and stream it up and share with your friends.
2025
New
metal.
New metal. Let's go. All right. Well, thank you guys. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
Later.
All right, ciao.